A flight across the Umbrian skies, over medieval towns and ancient fortresses, in the footsteps of St. Francis, with his great love of nature. Tasting the wines and local dishes of a farming tradition in a region where the crafts are a timeless art. Along the course of the Tiber, south of Perugia, Deruta's civic towers and church belfries stand out against the sky. For centuries, the town's economic development has depended on the ceramic arts. In the 16th century, its craftsmen's products could be bought all over Europe, bringing comfort and prosperity. The first documentary evidence of ceramic working dates back to the 14th century. Over the centuries, it experienced varying degrees of success, but the tradition never disappeared. The Museum of Deruta holds pieces created between the Middle Ages and the early 20th century. Ceramic skills are also passed on to the young at school. Since the 1960s, the National Institute of Ceramic Arts has been a center for training excellence, serving more than 200 local companies. While the sun shines on the Valle Umbra, Sunday in Bevagna begins like many others. The churches call children, parents, and grandparents. No surprises for them. They know the streets of the historic center so well, and daily life unfolds within the city's artistic heritage. They have one certainty in common. To them, Piazza Silvestri is the most beautiful in Italy. Northeast of Bevagna, historical eras blend. Spello's Roman gates and arches stand alongside more recent architecture. The walls and palaces seem eternal, but here a game is also being played with time, as some works of art live only for one day. At Corpus Domini, the flower festival transforms Spello into a riot of color and scents that fill the streets and piazzas. Hundreds of townsfolk work until dawn as volunteers to create a sort of carpet made of thousands of flowers. The bishop, leaving the cathedral, is the first to step on the flowered path. The floral pictures only last for a few hours, but remain in everyone's memory. People of all ages take part in the festival, alongside thousands of tourists who have come especially for the event and to immerse themselves in an atmosphere of celebration and spirituality. Every year, the Corpus Domini Flower Festival unites the spirits of art, nature, and faith. In June, a few weeks after the Spello Flower Festival, Foligno opens the region's summer festival season with the Giostra della Quintana Games. The courtly tournaments evoke 17th century jousts. Everything is ready to recreate the splendor of the Baroque age, with costly tailor-made garments and purchases paid for in period currency. In the evening, the floodlights illuminate religious statues. Every year, the Giostra della Quintana revives the sporting rivalry between Foligno's 10 districts. The competitions between knights began so that they could prove their allegiance to prince or lady. In the tournament, every horseman completes a race with 7 others around the wooden statue depicting a warrior called Quintana. The knights must pierce the 3 rings hanging from the statue's arm with their lance. The rings grow smaller during the 3 following races, until they measure just 6 centimeters across. Only the fastest, most skillful knight can carry his district to victory. For centuries, Foligno, Bevagna and Trevi have been rivals of Montefalco. The town had to fight to defend its distinctive traditions. Montefalco has always lived in harmony with the land. Even the buildings are adapted to the shape of the landscape, standing in a circle around the Piazza del Comune. The streets radiate down from the piazza towards the Topino and Clitunno valleys, creating a star shape. This harmony with the countryside is best expressed by the famous Umbrian oil and local wines. One of the greatest Italian wines is the Sagrantino di Montefalco. A wine trail winds through the region, so visitors can appreciate its quality direct from the producer. In fact, this area hosts many estates and cellars that are keeping an ancient tradition alive.
Sagrantino
and Grechetto are 2 old varieties that have been in Umbria for at least 500 years. Grechetto belongs to the family of Greek grapes, while the mysterious Sagrantino came here 5 centuries ago, but we don't know where from.
For years now, Montefalco has involved all its wine production centers in a tasting festival. Visitors to the Cantine Aperte can appreciate the wine among surroundings enriched by the art of historic towns. With wine tasting and drinking, the trail continues to reveal other ancient towns. Even Giacomo Leopardi mentioned Trevi. His verses describe a serene, light-filled city in the shape of a snail shell, with the outermost building sprawling languidly, as if bewitched. The old city stands on the mount that dominates the vineyards of the plain. A wall encircles the historic centre and its medieval palaces. Here, the history of art has unfolded over centuries, culminating in the work of contemporary artists. The Palazzo Lucarini hosts the exhibitions of the Flash Art Museum, a landmark in international contemporary art. The exhibition space explores different artistic languages. Even works in very different styles have something in common: the ability to express the now. From contemporary art to the art of cooking, the gap is smaller than you'd expect, especially when typical Umbrian dishes are on display.
The dishes that best represent our region are the usual ones based on vegetables. They're typical of our region and have been adapted by us. I'll give you a few examples from my own cooking. I do braised roe deer with porcini mushrooms and mint. I do fillet steak with pine nuts and sultanas. And then we do the classic wood pigeon prepared in a game sauce.
The search for Umbria's treasures continues westwards to Todi. The 16th century church of Santa Maria della Consolazione heralds the ancient city, founded in Etruscan times. The town retains its medieval atmosphere, with buildings dating from the period of Todi's greatest growth. Towards Lazio, the rivers of the Tiber flow through natural habitats rich in fauna and vegetation. Tourist services here welcome guests with a wide range of hotels and sports facilities, from hiking trails to cycling routes or canoeing along the river. For a short distance, the valley opens out into an artificial basin, where an irregular shoreline surrounds Lake Corbara. West of the lake, almost in Lazio, a visit to Orvieto is a must. The city was founded on red tufa cliffs high above its vineyards, and it has grown in harmony with the rock. The old centre has preserved one of the masterpieces of medieval Italian architecture, the Duomo. Founded in the 13th century, it was finally completed 400 years later. The interior is decorated with 15th century frescoes. Gold and precious jewels glitter in the side chapels. The profound simplicity of the Holy Angel is flanked by Luca Signorelli's clear lines. In his works, painting and architecture become one. Legend says that the Well of San Patrizio was a mystical place like the pit where Island St. Patrick cleansed himself of sin. To take the waters of Orvieto's well, you must climb down 2 spiral staircases. Even mules have learned to negotiate them to fetch water. In southern Umbria, towards Terni, untouched natural landscapes surround small towns soaked in history. It's thought that Amelia was founded over 3,000 years ago, and since that time has never been abandoned. The 12 faces of the cathedral bell tower have stood for over 10 centuries. At the exact center of the Italian peninsula, the name of Narni reminds us of the story of C.S. Lewis. It's no coincidence. It was ancient Narnia that inspired the writer to create the Chronicles, which Disney has since transformed into a box office hit. Narni grew up on the Roman road of the Via Flaminia, which also passed through San Gemini. Traces of its most ancient past still remain, like the ruins of a tomb, some mosaics, and several stretches of wall. Now, as in the past, many visitors arrive here in search of its hot springs. Every piazza in San Gemini has its 13th century palace or church, like the Church of San Francesco. A dense network of narrow streets, typical of a medieval town, spreads out from the main road. Here, everyday life unfolds with the timeless rhythms of history. The Conca Ternana opens out near Cesi. Several churches and monasteries overlook the landscape from the hilltop heights. Others lay hidden in the silent woods. Time passes slowly, and sometimes seems to flow backwards to the Roman age. The Carcere excavations reveal the area's importance at the time when the Romans traded along the strategic roads. Work is important, but there's also an opportunity for a therapeutic holiday. The area was famous, in fact, for the healing powers of its hot springs. In Terni, Umbria's ancient soul lives alongside modernity, but industrial development has not destroyed Romanticism. The cathedral is dedicated to the acknowledged patron saint of lovers of all ages, St. Valentine.
Chi era San Valentino? San Valentino
Who was St. Valentine? According to history, which is of course entangled in legend, St. Valentine was the first bishop of the city of Terni. That's around the first half of the 2nd century. He was a bishop and a martyr. A martyr because he was killed in the persecution of the Christians. And then his body was brought here from Rome, and we keep it in the crypt beneath the altar. Why the patron saint of lovers, or love? Because tradition, legend, relates that St. Valentine watched over the marriage preparations of the engaged couple and used to bless the weddings and send a red rose, which we can admire in the side window of the church.
Che possiamo ammirare sulla vetrata della facciata della chiesa.
Since the 1800s, industrialization has pushed out the borders of the city. Its economy revolves around steelworks and chemical plants, so much so that Terni has been called the Italian Manchester. The city embodies both past and present, wide roads in the new districts, and ancient streets in the historic center. The Roman amphitheater has stood here for 2,000 years. It still hosts concerts and cultural events. West of Terni, nature once again displays its power. The Marmore Falls are considered to be Europe's highest. In fact, Its 3 downward leaps drop more than 160 feet. The English poet Lord Byron described them as a matchless cataract, horribly beautiful. The stream surges down towards the valley, inviting us to follow the current without fear of its force. The white water at the foot of the falls is also a paradise for rafting and canoeing enthusiasts. The monuments of Cascia that have survived siege and earthquake tell us the city was the political and cultural center of the region east of Spoleto. Saint Rita was born in Cascia, and in the 20th century, the cathedral that bears her name was founded on the ruins of the church where the saint died 5 centuries before. In 1328, an earthquake struck a wide area of Umbria. Only the walls of Norcia remain to remind us of its past as a medieval free commune. Norcia is the Umbrian section of the Monti Sibillini National Park, an area with environments of an incredible variety and quality. From its 1,400-meter perch, the town of Borgo boasts a view that takes in the colors and trees of Italy's largest closed karst basin. Here stand the region's tallest peaks. At the beginning of June, poppies, cornflowers, daffodils, and lentil blossom transform the flat uplands into an explosion of color and scents. Every corner of Spoleto is worth our attention, from the castle sitting regally above the city to the magnificent Delle Torri aqueduct, and on to the cathedral's eternal beauty. Since 1958, the greatest international artists have come to Spoleto to join the Festival of the Two Worlds. This annual event is organized by Francis Menotti, son of the founder, Giancarlo.
The artistic sense of the festival is the artist himself. My job is to give the artist the palette to arrive here and let him do his art, create his art with very few dimensions, to let him be and live for 3 weeks as if there were no problems, if we could only celebrate the arts and make a wonderful celebration and not worry about all the other things in life. The final concert in the Piazza del Duomo of Spoleto is the most marvelous moment. I mean, it's a traditional date in the calendar of Italians and people from all over the world. It's the moment that everybody waits for. This piazza that is, it shines and it becomes so alive in this moment when the sun is setting and swallows swarm around the cathedral and the maestro comes out and begins the concert. It's unforgettable. There's nothing quite like it in the whole world.
And so the festival becomes a metaphor for the region itself, embodying the same expressions of art, passion, nature, and traditions that create Umbria's timeless beauty.